We are here to order the hearing on the final budget and appropriation ordinance. First, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next we will have a roll call vote.
Allison Pinkett Floyd.
Here.
Ken Marshall.
Here.
Kristen Osmundstad Walsh.
Here.
Julie Kowalski Schmidt.
Here.
Jennifer Erickson.
Here.
Kelly Ann Sims.
Here.
Sue Wiggins.
Okay, the item on the agenda now is the hearing on the ordinance, which is the final budget and appropriation ordinance 2021-2022-002. And we would be stopping now for public presentation.
Do we have any?
Do we know of any? Okay, so it appears we do not. This will conclude our public hearing on the final budget and appropriation ordinance. Okay, so we'll go next to the monthly Board of Trustees meeting, and we will call that to order at 7:02. Again, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and now we will have our roll call for this meeting.
Allison Pinkett Floyd.
Here.
Ken Marshall.
Here.
Kristen Osmundstad Walsh.
Here.
Julie Kowalski Schmidt.
Here.
Jennifer Erickson.
Here.
Kelly Ann Sims.
Here.
Sue Wiggins.
Okay. May I have a motion for the adoption of the agenda?
Don't forget public comment.
Oh, okay, absolutely, right. Public comment before that. Are we aware of any public comment for this meeting?
There were none submitted.
Nothing sent? Okay, and no one's here. Okay, moving on to the first action item, adoption of the agenda.
I move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, the next item is approval of the consent agenda items. We would like to have a discussion regarding some points of clarification.
So do your motion.
I think we need.
Okay, can I have a motion for the approval of the consent agenda items?
I move that we approve the consent agenda items. I second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
No,
Aye.
we discussion first.
Okay, but it's just approval of the items. So you wanted to have a discussion to clarify a point, Ken?
Yeah, on the bottom, at the bottom of page 3, I think I need some clarification I would ask for because it's a little ambiguous. It says, Vice President Marshall expressed concern about mask requirements inside the library building. I think that can be read as me objecting to mask requirements, and that's just the opposite of what I did. So I would like to clarify that sentence to read, excuse me, Vice President Marshall expressed concern about lack of mask requirements for all people inside the library building. I think that clarifies what I said, and nobody would get would infer that I was against masks. In fact, I was in favor of the masking requirement.
Okay, great. Any other points of discussion?
Is everybody in agreement with that clarification? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely. That was your stance.
So you would approve as amended.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yes, we'll accept it as amended. Any other discussion on the consent agenda items?
I have one question about the check register,
Mm-hmm.
and that is, I'm looking at the check register at about, 3/4, 7/8 of the way down the first page. I see 2 gigantic expenses that the Village of Lombard. Now, I see later in the executive report that those were for permits. Are those the last of the permits we have to get from the village?
You know, I can't guarantee that they're the last of the permits, but what I can tell you is they are the largest expense of the permits. So.
Yeah, $221,000 and then $72,000. I would hope that there isn't more that we have to spend for permits.
I don't have the Frederick Quinn, estimates in front of me, but they're not far from that. I don't know if they're slightly over, slightly under, or right on target, but they're in the ballpark of exactly what we anticipated.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any additional comments on the consent agenda? Okay, can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda items as amended?
I'll make a motion to accept the accept the consent agenda items as amended.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so our next item is committee reports. Audit committee?
Audit committee had nothing immediately pending, so we have not met, but we will be meeting before the end of the month.
Okay, great. Director Relations Committee?
Yes, we will be meeting on September 16th at 7 p.m.
Okay, awesome. And Policy and Bylaws Committee?
We haven't set a meeting date yet, but it needs to be attended to.
Okay,
Wait, excuse me.
The
What do you
meeting, it is set for the last Saturday.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah. That email went out the first part of this week, I think, or late last week, because you had all confirmed it, so.
My apologies, I haven't looked at my library email.
That's okay. It's the last Saturday, 9:30 a.m.
Thank you, Claudia.
Yeah.
okay. Any unfinished business? All right, moving on to new business. May I have a motion for the first action item, which is approval of the final budget and appropriation ordinance 2021-2022-002.
I move for approval of the final budget and appropriation ordinance 2021-2022-002.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, this is a roll call vote.
Yeah, but any discussion, any
Yes,
questions?
I have two questions. They're not outrageous, but I'm curious about in the general fund on page 1, it says employee assistance program, $2,000. Is that for like potential counseling or something?
Yeah, that's I'm going to call it the hotline number, but that's the employee number that every employee has access to, regardless of part-time, full-time, exempt, non-exempt, so.
Okay, is that going to be enough? I mean, with the pandemic putting pressure on everybody.
Yes, I think it's a fixed price, and I think we actually have it budgeted at 1,500, Ken, but, so it's buffered a little bit.
Okay, well, if I don't know the protocol here, but if you need more money, you know, if you have to come to the board or not, but certainly let us know, because I know the pressure the staff's been under, everybody's been under, and if somebody needs assistance, we certainly want to make sure that they get it.
And I can get clarity on whether or not that's just an annual flat fee that we pay, or if it's a per call, but I think it's a flat fee that we pay, so.
And my other question is on page 2. Again, they're under operations, it says programs adults, 14,000, programs youth, 25,000, programs teens, 4,000. I'm assuming the disparity is because we do a lot more for the youth than we do for the adult or the teens. Is this based on experience that you budgeted that much based on attendance, et cetera, for prior programs?
Exactly, and just keep in mind that this budget and appropriation ordinance is a percentage higher than our working budget. And it's partly been pandemic related. So much of the team programming is virtual, and it's with our tab group. So we will absolutely be back if we anticipate more, but I think that's a budget you'll see increase in the new building when we have the teen space and anticipate more programming.
Yeah, I want to make it clear I'm not rejecting those numbers.
Right,
I just was curious as to what was behind them.
Right.
Okay. That's it for me. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I would add that nothing has changed from when you saw this last month.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is a roll call vote?
Allison Pinkett Floyd,
Yes.
Ken Marshall,
Yes.
Kristen Osmondstad Walsh,
Yes.
Julie Kowalski Schmidt,
Yes.
Jennifer Erickson,
Yes.
Kelly Ann Sims,
Yes.
Sue Wiggins.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, the next action item is the approval of certified estimate of revenues by source for fiscal year 2021-2022. Can I have a motion for that item?
I move for the approval of certified estimate of revenues by source fiscal year 2021-2022.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion on that item? Okay, this is also a roll call vote.
Allison Pinkett Floyd,
Yes.
Ken Marshall,
Yes.
Kristen Osmondstad Walsh,
Yes.
Julie Kowalski Schmidt,
Yes.
Jennifer Erickson,
Yes.
Kelly Ann Sims,
Yes.
Sue Wiggins.
Yes.
Okay. The final action item, may I have a motion for the approval to permanently eliminate the overdue fines effective November 1st, 2021.
I move for the approval to permanently eliminate overdue fines effective November 1st, 2021.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this?
Yes, just a few words. The staff made a pretty convincing presentation at the last meeting about eliminating the fines, but I still am not really comfortable about kind of letting people skate with overdue books. And I know that I'm in a minority here. It's hard for me to oppose it, but the concept of personal responsibility, getting books back on time, still kind of sticks with me. So I'm not going to vote against it, but when we do vote, I'd like you to ask for abstention so I can register my abstaining from the vote.
Okay.
I'm torn one way or the other, so I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Any other discussion on the fines? Okay, this is a roll call vote. So Ken, when you're called?
Allison Pinkett Floyd,
Yes.
Ken Marshall,
Abstain?
Kristen Osmondstad Walsh,
Yes.
Julie Kowalski Schmidt,
Yes.
Jennifer Erickson,
Yes.
Kelly Ann Sims,
Yes.
Sue Wiggins.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. And next is communications. Julie?
There were no communications to the board from the community.
Sue, were you aware of any?
Nope.
Okay, all right. Moving on to the library director's report.
Once again, I'm not going to duplicate too much of what I've already included in the report for you unless you have questions. But I did just have a couple of other things I wanted to bring up. First and foremost, Tabitha Anderson, our youth services manager, is here tonight. She started on June 21st. So Tabitha,
Hi,
I
Tabitha.
want you to
Welcome.
stand up. And,
Nice to meet you.
welcome. We're
Welcome.
just delighted that she's here. I don't know if any of you have any questions, or Tabitha, if you have anything you wanted to add.
She's a Lombard resident also.
She's a Lombard resident, and she's got some wonderful library experience in youth services management from other libraries, most recently Elgin.
Awesome.
So,
Welcome
and I
aboard.
also want to take a minute and introduce Sarah Plassman, our new administrative assistant. Sarah has been a sub in youth services, and as devastated as we were to lose Angelica as a regular employee and then keep her as a sub occasionally coming back, we were aware of Sarah's background and delighted that this was a fit for her. So Sarah, welcome, and I'm sure you'll all get to know her too.
Thank you.
And Sarah's also a Lombard resident, right? So,
Well, glad to have you both here.
so that's by way of
Team
introduction.
Helen Plum.
Sarah just started on September 7th in this position, so, and we're grateful that Angelica's here to help assist in the transition and ongoing, so thank you. I emailed earlier today a picture from the construction site of the basement. I don't know if you haven't seen it, take a look, because, you know, we've been coming and going on Fridays from that space, and last Friday we're like, this is actually kind of exciting.
I drove
So-
by today. There's
Yeah,
metal beams and everything in the foundation.
Yeah,
so.
it's amazing because it's nothing to write home about, but it felt so good to see it. So you
Good
have the
stuff.
picture in your emails if you haven't looked at it. One other thing I wanted to mention, I know occasionally I put this in the written report, a comparison of our statistics from 2 years ago, because we're in this pandemic period, and I don't do it every month, but I do check it every month. And the one thing I wanted to point out on your stats, for the subtotal of all physical items, which is about a little over 50% of the way down, our August number for physical items was 38,243 compared to 33,000 last year, which was pandemic. But I took a look back to 2019 pre-pandemic, and we were at 37,970. So we slipped up over that. That's physical materials getting checked out. And I just viewed that as a very positive thing. I don't know what's going to happen now that we're back with indoor masking and everything else. We may see that dip, but that was I think an important moment for me to actually see those print numbers get higher than the current print numbers. Our current print numbers higher than what we were 2 years ago pre-pandemic. And the e-content this past month was over 10,000, and by comparison, that was just slightly over 5,000 2 years ago. So that e-content really spiked during the pandemic, but it's continued to stay higher than it was prior to the pandemic. So that's just by way of note. And I also want to remind you, I know I've said this before too, many of our database stats come in after the 10th of the month when this report is done. Sometimes I put it in grayscale if I have 70% of them, but there's some big numbers that are missing. So they'll get added in. And once again, when it comes time for IPLAR, we grab the entire year and drop those stats in. So, and last thing I wanted to mention is that Jamie Racklin will be on the agenda next month. We will be looking at estimate of not revenues by source, but estimate of revenues funds needed, and then getting ready for the levy that you'll have in November. So I want him to come back and annually come back and let's look at that 5-year look ahead on our financial plan. So he will be coming back in October. And I don't have anything else unless you had any specific questions.
I'll add one thing. On page 3 of the executive team report, Claudia mentioned that Claudia, Sue, and I met with Keith Genario and the assistant village manager, Nicole Aranis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We had a great meeting. They were very supportive of our project. Keith talked about the enthusiasm in the community. They were asking about updates, and they invited us maybe in the next 6 months to come back, or when we're ready, to maybe use the village's platform to announce what updates we would like to share with the community. So it's a very nice meeting, genuinely interested in our project and excited for us, I would say.
Thank you.
Claudia, I did have a question about the library card holders numbers. I wanted to ask because it seemed like there's some really strong improvement overall between the number of library card holders and then kind of a big increase in December of 2020 to January 2021. Is that like kind of normal new year interest?
Part of that is the way we're doing the renewals. And if Michelle Peterson were here, she could address it really quite specifically. Alex, I don't know if you have any insight into that, but we have some auto renewals coming up that we didn't used to do. So that's part of it, but we can ask her to be ready to talk a little bit about that at the next meeting too.
Yeah, the automatic renewals haven't taken effect yet. I'm speculating here. Michelle could speak to this with more authority, but I believe some of that increase might be because during the pandemic, we had made it easier to apply for and renew cards online, and that proved to be very popular. I believe it could be a result of patrons taking advantage of that service.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about that also because we had this jump of almost 4,000 cardholders between December 20 and January 2021. So I'd be interested in more details about that.
Well, remember, and again, we get a couple months away from this, and I can't remember the exact sequence, but remember when we extended the renewal and we said we're going to carry people forward to September, and we did that in bulk? I don't know how much that plays out, and that's the piece that we would want to analyze a little bit more to say, look, we extended everybody globally, and I just don't remember the parameters around that. Because it's been a couple months,
Well,
so we can look back at it.
I'm sorry. The important thing is that we went up almost 5,000 cardholders from August of last year to August of this year, which is pretty impressive given the pandemic and all. Just a couple of more minor comments. On page 2 of the report, under staff in service recap, second paragraph, sentence reads, staff were grateful that a thank you message for their hard work was extended by the board president. I just want to make certain to clarify it, by the board president on behalf of the entire board, which was in the message. I mean, we all are very appreciative of what the staff has done, and Allison was speaking for all of us when she sent that note.
Absolutely.
On page 2, also toward the bottom, how to create an incident report using incident tracker. I'm not sure, first of all, I'm not sure what constitutes an incident. Is it somebody passing out or somebody pulling a gun or somebody stealing a book? And then Does that
Yes,
go then
all
to
of those things.
does that go
Yeah.
to the police then, or
Yeah,
does it?
no, not always. Here's how we would define it in our person in charge training. An incident should be documented anytime you call 911, first of all. Anytime something happens that you need to let the next person on shift know this occurred. So if sometimes it's medical, sometimes it's behavioral, sometimes it's theft found after the fact. And we had incident tracker, I want to say ready to go almost just prior to the pandemic. And that all got put on hold for a while. So we're picking up where we left off. And with Ann in place, she's taking the lead on that. And if you want an example of some of the incidents, just stop by. I'll pull out the binder, which will go to the incident tracker system, but you'll see examples of it. I mean, when there was a theft of all of our video games, that was an ongoing incident, and we kept it pending. If there's somebody that gets too belligerent about a mask, we're going to document that incident. If somebody is rude or disrespectful to staff members on the phone or in person, or to other patrons, we're going to document that. We want to look for patterns. Sometimes we go so far as to take a look at the security cameras and then issue a ban after the fact because the behavior was so out of line. I don't know. Anybody want to add anything to this?
No, I appreciate the information. I wondered just the magnitude of the incident, if it had any importance, but I'm glad that you're documenting everything. Something that could appear to be minor at the time might later turn out to be consequential, and it'd be good to have a record of that.
Exactly. I would say, too, that one of the requests from our adult services manager when we started to look at incident tracker, there are sometimes some harassing phone calls or patterns of harassing phone calls, or sometimes phone calls from someone who the requests seem to be a little unstable in terms of what they're saying and asking for, and it is a help to have that documented, especially if it's happening frequently in a given day or in a given week. Then the phone calls can be documented too. We probably haven't done as strong of a job of documenting those kinds of harassing phone calls because they're not face-to-face incidents. So that's one thing we hope to get a better handle on with incident tracker too.
I'm assuming that is string of offenses. We have a policy with regard to borrowing somebody from the library. Hopefully that is used rarely, if at all, but we do have the mechanism in place in case something tends to get out of hand. We can keep people out.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
And we have had to use that. So.
Just one or two more. On page 5, they talk about the Teen Do Something Challenge, and I was intrigued by the sentence, we have received questions from other libraries around the United States about the challenge and how the program was set up. So that's pretty flattering.
I think that's wonderful. And Tabitha's here, so she's the one that can give you some insight into that. You want to add anything?
So it's on the platform BeamStack, which they do sometimes.
You're going to need a mic.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah,
So it's on the platform BeamStack, and they do sometimes spotlights for different users around the nation who are using BeamStack, and they spotlighted our program. Unfortunately, they didn't tell us about it quite enough. They didn't tell us before they posted it, but it was a happy surprise when we got it in our inbox and saw, hey, that's our program. And then there was multiple libraries around the nation just asking about the setup details and what exactly we're doing for that program. So that was pretty exciting just to see that recognition. And then I was able to just do a quick video and give them some information. And then there was also a Facebook post about it that in a BeamStack user group. So it was cool to see just the excitement, and there's definitely a need for that virtual platform. I checked today, we have 9 students signed up already, and it's only been available since the 1st. And I'm going to get all the Teen Advisory Board members to sign up on Sunday during our meeting in September. So.
And Tabitha, how long will that go, for the whole school year?
Yeah, it'll go through the whole school year. Every single month, there's a new badge that's going to appear, and they'll have new challenges that they can accomplish during that month. And usually they're thematic to the month. And then there's also repeatable activities that they can accomplish throughout the year, like putting in a book review. And so the whole concept is do something for yourself, do something for others and do something for the community. So the do something for yourself part was a little bit challenging to me because I was like, well, should they get community service hours for this? But if we've learned anything during the pandemic, we really have to take care of ourselves if we want to take care of other people. And so I think teaching that to teens through this program is a really great opportunity. So thank you.
Well, again, I want to congratulate you on initiating a program that's gotten nationwide publicity and nationwide requests for emulation. So good job. You're new too. Good way to start.
Yeah, thank you.
Off to a good start.
Yeah, I have one more thing on page 10, and this is addressed to Alex, perhaps. It says Alex met with a number of staffers here to discuss set up for Verify Patron Points online library card registration service. How does that differ? We can register online for cards now, can't we?
We can. And the way that works currently is there's this form on our website where patrons can submit their name and their address. We then by email staff, or they receive a temporary card number by email. They still have to come into the library within a short period of time. I believe it's within a month or so, and we might have extended that a bit. Sorry?
I think it's 30 days. 30
days? Yeah, to prove residency with photo ID or other appropriate forms of identification. The difference with Patron Points Verify program is that they can automate some of that process by comparing the name and address to public records to verify that they are, in fact, who they say they are, that they live within the bounds of our district, so that will automate some of those processes, not just for when they initially receive their card, but when we in the future hope to allow them to renew either automatically or also online, to use the same type of address verification that the post office or banks use to automatically verify that they do live at the address that they say they live at. So we are in the process, early in the process of getting that set up. And we'll have additional updates on that in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, I'm sorry. I did have one question while you're up there. If you're done, Ken.
Yeah,
On just the RFID or RFID on tagging. When is the completion date? When are you hoping? Because it seems like you're cruising along.
Yes.
But...
We just spoke about that at our management meeting this morning. So I was planning on including that in next month's report, but you'll get a preview today.
Oh, sorry.
At the rate we're going, we're expecting that we should be able to finish up by the end of February of 2022.
Nice.
We've been working on this project somewhat slower pace for about a year now, but we are starting now to train additional staff to help with this, and the goal has always been to get this done before we move to the new building. For a couple of reasons. Once we finish tagging the entire collection, we'll be able to use those wireless RFID tags for check-in and check-out. So patrons will be able to place an entire stack of items on the self-check, check them all out at once. The same goes for check-in too. Staff, rather than having to scan each item individually, will be able to do that in batches. And it will assist with inventory as well. We will be able to use a wireless reader to scan an entire range of books and determine that everything that should be on shelf is on shelf and it's where it should be. So we're hoping to use that for inventory before we move to the new building. And by getting this done in February, we'll be able to start training patrons and staff on that process. So it's something that everybody already understands on opening day, and it's not another brand new thing to have to learn at a time when there will be a lot of other changes to adjust to as well. So we will definitely have additional updates on that in the coming months, but we're expecting to finish up in 6 months at the end of February.
Great, thank you so much. I did have just one other, not really question, but I just was noticing, I know the staff has done a great job being flexible and adjusting through COVID, as many of us have, but I thought it was impressive that you switched, oh, I apologize. You switched to a virtual event for your staff in service so quickly. So that was really impressive.
All right, thank you, Julie.
Just one more thing. This may go either to Claudia or Alex. I see that the total in the collection is about 143,000, a little bit more. Is that pretty much steady over the last year? Has the pandemic had any impact on the amount of items that we actually have in the library available to the public?
Actually, there's definitely been some weeding going on in anticipation of moving items to the new building. Alex could be more specific as to how that trend is over multiple months.
Yeah, I don't have the year-over-year comparison handy, but as you look at the collection stats in each board report, you've probably noticed that for some time now, the number of items added every month is slightly lower than the number withdrawn. So as we prepare to move to the new building, Adult and Youth Services have been working through their collection and weeding out some of the older, lesser used material, things that are in worse condition, in preparation for that move. So if I had to venture a guess, I think we've probably seen a decrease of a couple thousand items in the last year or so. I believe it was closer to 145 this time last year.
And you anticipate that it'll be pumped up again after we get into the new building?
I believe so. That would be a question for the Adult and Youth Services departments. They do the actual selection of the material. My staff receive and process the material once it arrives at the library.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If there's nothing else, we will move on to the last item, which is departmental reports.
Which we kind of did.
Yeah, sorry, anybody have anything
All
else?
in this cross-departmental report.
I just have one little comment. I happened to go to the library today to pick up my packet and to pick up my reserve book. And I noticed the sticker that's on one side of the drop-off box. Phil happened to come outside just as I was getting ready to go in. And he said he has more of those to go on 3 sides of each of the boxes. So
They look sharp.
Yeah.
yes, it looks good.
I
So,
sent you an email, and we'll put a picture in next month. but
okay.
Just a little background on that. Sue had noticed that and emailed me or called, I don't want
A
to.
couple of months ago.
And actually, when I was walking in that very same morning before I spoke with you, I'm looking at them going, they were kind of rusty and
Very
and a
rusty
little
looking.
tacky. But Phil had attempted to do some sanding, cleaning, whatever, and our wonderful marketing department said, we have a better idea. So we had talked about it in admin team meetings. It took a little while to design and then order, and apparently that is a thin film, and they needed to wait until the wind was not blowing because it
Oh, right.
loose. So I don't know if they're all in, but
Yeah, and that's what happened. One of them stuck to itself.
Oh,
So,
no.
so we had to say, you know what, we need another one.
anyway, I thought they were a marvelous facelift, and
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
they look good, and they'll be covering other sides.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. Looks much better.
Awesome. Okay, if there's nothing else, do we need a motion to adjourn? We do. Okay. I feel like. Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, meeting adjourned.